Today's dedication is for Terax, who gave me a very generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Bristly Bill Spine Sower versus Braids, Old One Eye, and Yarok. Just a one-lander, which is a shame because otherwise it'd be a decent hand. We'll take the mulligan. Okay, into a worse hand, but we do have Sylvan Library, so pray that we get into something decent off that. Alright, a Gaia's Cradle is a reason to maybe play the Sylvan Safekeeper, but we can get our commander out and have the Gaia's Cradle tap for mana. Every chance we'll see an Urborg or a Yavimaya as well. Want to save this so that we can start sacrificing lands. I assume that we will run out of lands at some point in the deck if we play this deck enough. So being able to sacrifice them and replay them from the bin in order to trigger landfall might be useful. See a Gaia's Cradle here as well, so just 1 mana for Old One Eye. Braids missing a land, so keeping a poor hand to start off with apparently. And that is a Silk Guard, so let's go for... yeah, we'll go for the Sylvan Library here. Maybe get down our commander next turn, although Arwyn wouldn't be the worst. Talisman of Resilience for Yarok, a mana crypt from the mono green player. And that allows him into a Kodama's Reach, so not sure if he was lucky getting into that. He must have just drawn into this, or he would have played it last turn, I would assume. Nezumi Informant from the Braids player, so I'm not sure if he just missed a land last turn and he's just getting lucky here, or if it was a misclick. Anyway, we all have to discard a card here, so I think we'll just get rid of the Silk Guard. So we'll just get rid of the Silk Guard here, which would have been a good means of protecting our plus counter creatures. Big creatures being discarded by our opponents, a Pandrill and a Rune-Scarred Demon. Alright, we managed to make another land, so can hold off on the Gaia's Cradle if we want to. And there's a Branching Evolution as well, so... do we play Branching Evolution here? Yeah, the game's going reasonably slow so far, so let's go top, hold on to Branching Evolution for 4 life, and then we can play the Forest into the Evolution, and then maybe see about a Forgotten Ancient next turn, because that'll get double the plus counters every time a player casts a spell at that point, and it'll be a decent target for the ram through as well. Now another Mana Rock from Yarok, surprised to see so many of those in a green deck. An Augur of Autumn, looks as though Old One Eye is missing a land here, and was able to play a land with the Augur of Autumn, which allows him to make 4 mana into a Beast Whisperer, so getting some pretty good top decks over here. Braids Arisen Nightmare into play here, and a 3rd land being made in a row, so we'll assume that it was a misclick on turn 2. And if they want to sacrifice the rat, then we're not going to be able to sacrifice a creature ourselves here. The rat comes in towards us. Alright, did not decide to sacrifice this, curiously. So we know that we're drawing into a forest, see if we want to take any life here. Alright, it's a Balagad Recovery and a forest, so put that on top. We'll, yeah, hopefully have a big creature, so we'll take 4 life again. We need to be careful with Braids though. So we need to get our mana up so that we can play out our commander into a land drop and actually start taking advantage of the plus counters. So maybe it's Arwyn next turn, and then we can, we'd have to play our commander first, wouldn't we, and then play a land. Well, there's nothing to stop us putting plus counters on Arwyn after the fact. Suppose we could drop the Gaia's Cradle to get more mana after our commander. Anyway, we'll see. And there we see Yarok the Desecrated being played, so get our first couple of plus counters. Elemental Bond for the other mono green player. So 4 cards in hand, gonna make the creature's cantrip. And there we see the 3rd commander of the game, Old One Eye. So 2 plus counters again. Beast Whisperer will trigger, and then a card draw from the enchantment as well. Enters with a 5/5 token, which will also trigger the Elemental Bond, so refilling his hand entirely. A constructive turn this. Now the black player going for a Nimble Right schematic. We don't have an artifact to sacrifice either, but this will bring in a construct token. And then the 1/1 was going, swinging at us again, but decided to think better of it. So see if they sacrifice with the Braids this time. Amazingly, not sacrificing anything there either, for whatever reason. Probably worried about having chump blockers, although we could have sacrificed that. No, we will not move counters onto anything. Alright, a Nykthos is the best land out of all of those, and I don't want to be taking any more life, even though Braids isn't making us lose any life, as it probably should be. We're still facing down big trample creatures, so put both of those on top. So let's go for our commander, and we do trigger our own Forgotten Ancient when we cast spells, so it gets even bigger. So then we can get down the Nykthos here, we tap it down for 4, and nothing comes of that really. Suppose we could get down the Sylvan Safekeeper to try and keep our stuff from being targeted, so let's go Gaia's Cradle. Triggers our commander for the first time, we'll point it at the Bristly Bill. So landfall is actually 2+ counters on something now. We could go get this in first and then tap Gaia's Cradle for even more mana, but that doesn't make any difference. So we'll go for the Arwen. And we are overextending here, but there's not a whole lot of anything that we're really doing here, so maybe you do have to start putting more life into Sylvan Library. Play the Sylvan Safekeeper as well. And this will enter with a couple of plus counters on it thanks to the Arwen, because the toughness on this is 1 but obviously gets twice as many counters. Alright, so do we want to swing in with a 14-7? Would have been nice to ram through the Yarok, but yeah, we can encourage our opponents to swing in at each other. Let's leave it there. Sower of Temptation is gain control of a creature for as long as that's in play, so we'll see if we need to give anything of ours Shroud with the Sylvan Safekeeper, because it may well go after our Forgotten Ancient. They do get double the triggers here, so we might have to just rely on a ram through to get this out of the way, but they may well have a negate to protect against that. So going after the Forgotten Ancient, as you would expect. Alright, going after the Autumn and the Forgotten Ancient, so we're going to have to lose out on a forest here, unfortunately. So put Sylvan Safekeeper on the stack, see if Braids wants to respond to it in any way. Not going to sacrifice another land. This encourages the mono green player to go for some fight or bite cards, Beast Within and stuff onto the Sower at least. An old Gnawbone, thankfully, without haste. Elemental Bond is triggered there. So 8 cards in hand and plenty of mana from Gaia's Cradle still. And now some attacks. The 6/6 and the 5/5 go in at the mono black player, maybe encouraging some interaction. Alright, and now the Braids guy has decided to scoop. I don't know why he wasn't using his Braids there. I don't know if he's just net decked it and he doesn't know how to use that commander, but yeah, decided to just leave it at that. And we know what to do when players do this. A Gorklaw, Terror of Kalsisma, will draw a couple of cards and discount big creatures. Alright, so now the Forgotten Ancient is a 20/23 and we're going to be able to redistribute plus counters. Don't have Trample, unfortunately, otherwise at least one of our opponents might be in trouble. So we'll say yes to this, and for every 1 counter that we put on something, it'll be 2 counters, so we have to click this manually, I think. Oh, I see. It's slowly ticking up. It's not keeping track of how many we're putting onto each individual creature, but it's saying 5 out of 20. So I think I've done 2 on there. I mean, it doesn't really matter, it's pretty arbitrary at this point. We'll just go crazy, put quite a few onto Arwen. And there we go. So we're leaving 5 on the Forgotten Ancient. And there we go, it is a 10-10 here, a 16-15, a 13-13, and down to a 5-8. And then Sylvan Library, maybe we do have to start putting more life into, even though it's a bit risky, because we don't have anything too incredible on top, and Inscription of Abundance isn't the worst. In fact, we can gain a decent amount of life with that. So in that case, we'll pay the life on both of them, and then it can be a Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, keep us up on mana quite nicely, put the counters on the Forgotten Ancient, and then I think we're just holding up our interaction here, so we can gain a bunch of life with this and fight something. Ram through can get rid of probably Yarok, and then if we've got enough surplus mana, which we probably will, we can double plus counters with the Bristly Bill. So let's leave it at that and see if our opponents want to do anything to us. Maybe just turn into the right with the 16-15, see if they want to make a chump block. I dare say they'll take this because they're still at 40 life over there. If we want to get rid of old Gnawbone before it swings back at us, then maybe have to do it before he untaps, because might have a heroic intervention or something. Old Gorklaw being encouraged to block, that's fine. Okay, instead throwing away the Beast Whisperer, which I'm also fine with. Noteworthy that with Ram through, the bigger the creature is, the more damage we can push through from a small creature, so might be worth dumping even more plus counters onto a single creature, as risky as that might be. And then that can push even more damage through when we shove it at a 2 toughness creature, something like that. And we've got 7 devotion with Nykthos as well, so should easily be able to do inscription and ram through in one turn. Thassa Deep Dwelling is a means of flickering, so probably good to get rid of the Sower of Temptation. Use a ram through in order to do that. Or actually use the fight card in order to do that, because we don't want to ram through against the Death Toucher. Have to see if our opponent has any counter magic as well. Alright, so let's wait for the Thassa to target, and then we can go for Devotion to green with the Nykthos. Makes us 7 mana. We will do the kicker on the inscription, means we can do all of these. Plus counters on a creature, we gain X life, and then the fight is target creature you control, which will be the Sylvan Safekeeper, versus the Sower of Temptation. This will give back the Augur back to the green player, unfortunately, but hopefully it won't matter. They've got a lot of different powers though, so they could play creatures off the top, but we don't want Sower of Temptation to be stealing our stuff. We might have to use a ram through on it as well yet. Alright, looks like they might be able to counter this, which means we won't be able to gain the life. That would have been a reason to use ram through first. And there's a mana leak, which we can pay for. So do we just pay for it? We've got the Gaia's Cradle, so yeah, suppose so. Don't often see a mana leak nowadays. So looks as though this is going through. And we go back up to 43, so maybe can ram through on this thing instead. We'll see what they do with the old Gnawbone. We could remove that. They've got plenty of mana regardless. Can't really leave either player alone. So we've put old One Eye in a pretty decent spot here, but it could be that a lot swings in towards Yarok. We could ram through the Yarok and encourage him to turn in sideways over there, but obviously he'll hold back blockers for the swing back with us. 8 cards in hand, we'll try and keep track of that. A Zendikar Resurgent, more means of card draw. Obviously makes more mana as well. And played that from the hand. We'll assume he had that in hand, that's why he was willing to give up on the Beast Whisperer. And then it is a Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger, so we will tap down the Gaia's Cradle in response to that. Kinda need Yarok for a board wipe at this point, I think. So now that they've got a bucket load of mana, does it matter if we give them old Gnawbone? Might be best to remove the Vorinclex, to be honest, because we're pretty far behind as it is now. Alright, a Conjurer's Closet wants to flicker something. They'd go for the Commander, you would assume, which we'll just have to allow, I imagine. Alright, so now we're about to lose the mana, so we have to go for ram through now. The Forgotten Ancient is actually going to be bigger than this thing, so we'll go Forgotten Ancient onto the Vorinclex. And that bumps up to a 21-24. Again, could have means of hexproof here. Drawn a hell of a lot of cards. Alright, but that gets through, so we get rid of the Vorinclex, and no doubt that the Gnawbone is going to swing in at us. Yep, we get Gnawbone, everything else goes into the left. There is Death Touch here, I'm not sure if my opponent's counted for that. +1/+1 and Trample. And maybe our opponent has an army in a can with something like a Avenger of Zendikar or something. Maybe the Death Touch insect that brings in other Death Touch insects, because he has tapped out here, which you would argue would be pretty risky, although he is going to untap old One Eye. So everything hits, and that means a bunch of treasures and making even more use of this, assuming that there's creatures and lands on top. So a cartload of treasure being made, that is 16 treasure. And E-Witness is able to grab something out of the bin, so might be able to just replay this. And yep, goes after Vorinclex. We can play the Balaged Recovery next turn and grab back the Inscription, but that'll take a lot of mana. 8 cards in hand now. So there's Vorinclex. Toski, Bearer of Secrets, a nice indestructible. Alright, Apex Devastator now, Cascade 4 times on a 10/10. Takes him into Vivian, Champion of the Wilds, which means he can cast his creatures with Flash. And then even more card draw, Garruk, Primal Hunter. And a Nature's Law, about time you missed. And finally, a Vastwood Surge. And then giving, until his next turn, a tapped creature, Vigilance and Reach. Creating a beast with Garruk. Okay, and then a Tooth and Nail, which is a 1-card combo as far as I'm concerned. And grabbed himself an Uvenwald Hydra, able to search for a land. And Sarith. So able to give a bunch of stuff Death Touch with that. Only has 50 odd cards left in the library now as well. And not done there, we see an Explore with 11 cards in hand. Plays another basic. Sakura Tribe Elder will allow a shuffle. Courser of Crufix allows playing off the top as well. Alright, finally, seems as though our opponent's done, apart from the Conjurer's Closet trigger. We see on top now a Sky Shroud Claim, and targeting the E-Witness will allow him to bring something back out of the bin. And with that goes after the Tooth and Nail again. And at this point, the Forgotten Ancient is a 45-48, so I think it was worth sacrificing that forest for it previously. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to get through. Got half a chance with Sylvan Library though. So let's redistribute some stuff and make some massive creatures. Alright, I don't even know how I've distributed these now, but I've put a boatload on the 3 other creatures, so I'll leave 5 on the Forgotten Ancient arbitrarily. Alright, and there we go. A 48-48 Commander, 36-35 Arwen, and a 39-39 Sylvan Safekeeper. See if we can actually get anything relevant with the Sylvan Library. Well, there's an Ozolith, but that's not all that relevant. Yep, not getting into anything great here, unfortunately. So, does it even matter if we pay the life? Might just have to tap out and hope that we survive a turn against the mono-green player. Yeah, go for just 4 life and put that on top. We could still go for Balaged Recovery and gain a bunch of life with that. So we've still got 7 devotion to green, which means we can play Rampaging Baloths, and then a land, tap the land that's left for Balaged Recovery, and then we'll have mana enough for the Inscription of Abundance, and our lands will be frozen, but yeah, go for that. Not doing much against this other mono-green player who's been a bit too strong for us, I think. So play the Baloths and Forgotten Ancient, about to get up there again. And then drop a land to make us a token simply for chumps. That entered as a 76-76 by the way, thanks to the Arwen. So Bristly Bill can just go on the Forgotten Ancient again, I think. Noteworthy that this has trample, so might be of some relevance. Maybe worth just dumping plus counters onto this actually. And then the Rampaging Baloth's token enters as a 74-74, so we're seeing a bit of what we want to do with this deck, but not getting into the card draw like our friend over here is, unfortunately. And then tap down the other 2 lands, freeze those as well, and cast the Balaged Recovery and carefully select the Abundance. And then we've got 6 mana off the Gaia's Cradle so that we can play this and kick it. And we'll dump the plus counters on the Baloths, I think, simply because it has trample, like I said. So I could go for it now so that we can hold up the Ozolith, but am I going to regret? We can gain the life either way. I'll risk Yarok not having a board wipe. In fact, we could take out Yarok here, couldn't we? But does this player get us on the swing back? Maybe. Yeah. I'll leave Yarok alone against my better judgment. Sakura Tribe Elder being cracked at the end of the turn. Gaining a life when the land enters, and shuffling an Elvish Visionary onto the top, which could be cast at flash speed, I think. Yes, it doesn't care about having things in your hand, the Vivian. Obviously they need the mana to do it though. It's noteworthy I could have gone for the Ram Through. In fact, I could have done it that very turn, couldn't I? Could have gone for the Balaged Recovery onto Ram Through, and then push this against a 1 toughness creature, although they have hexproof, don't they? It would have had to be... where are we? Yeah. Would have had to be a 3 toughness creature here, so we would have lost the Rampaging Baloths, but it would have pushed enough damage through to get rid of this player, and then we go wide over here. Yeah, that would have been the play, but don't mind extending the game a little bit. This makes it a bit more fun. But if your absolute concern is winning, then that definitely would have been the play. A Rex Sage is going to take something out. Should probably be the Resurgent and the Closet, maybe? Or actually the Elemental Bond, because that's really helping to keep them in cards. But going after the Closet and the Zendikar Resurgent. Yeah, my argument there is they only get 1 use of the Closet really, whereas the Elemental Bond, they're getting multiple triggers out of that every single turn. 47 cards left in the library, in no small part thanks to the Bond. And then it's a Spellseeker. Yeah, I wonder if he could have gone for something relevant with the Spellseeker. Couldn't have afforded a Rift or anything, so probably not. So gets to tutor out 2 small spells. First does go after the Rift, and there's a Vamp Tutor as well, but we are both going to have to take a turn off thanks to this Vorinclex, which, yeah, I think I will shoot again, because they can't flicker the Eternal Witness now, and even then they'd have to wait a turn to get it back out, although, no, they could have cheated it out with Vivian, couldn't they? Either way, can't flicker Eternal Witness to grab back Vorinclex, we hope. Alright, so Thassa going to flicker, and I don't think it's likely that we're going to see the back of Vorinclex before that turn opens up again, and we're always at risk of Heroic Intervention countering this so that we don't gain any life. Or actually, it wouldn't counter everything, would it? It would still try and do as much as possible, so maybe they can fight a big creature in response so we don't gain the life, but we've still got massive creatures. Yeah, we can hold off on the kicker Reclamation Sage, getting rid of the remaining 2 permanents that it can blow up over there. And now let's see how much more damage you can cause. There is a Titania's Command on top, and they should be able to draw a boatload of cards with the Garrett Primal Hunter, so yeah, they'll be able to clear cards off the top if needs be. Gaining a life with the Courser, making a beast with Garrett, surprisingly. 7 cards in hand, he must really like them. Would have drawn 15 cards by ticking down thanks to this thing. Elvish Visionary cantrips, and shows us an Elvish Rejuvenator, and now looks as though we're going through to combat. So we might be able to just hold up the mana here, because it might be that we can get down Trample next turn, or all the big creatures might be held back. Okay, our opponent seems to be wanting to go wide on us, so the life game may well be relevant yet. Gore Claw, +1/+1, and Trample on everything. Everything had Trample anyway. So there's Death Touches coming in towards us, because these things are tapped now, so anything not swinging in at us? Looks as though he's just turning everything in at us, so unfortunately, time to do some maths now. That is 4, 5, 6, 7, and 74, so 74 damage, and yeah, I think we're just going to have to rely on life gain here. Our opponent no doubt will be able to litter the board with creatures enough to be able to block and survive. So let's go for the kicker on Inscription of Abundance. Point that at the token. The plus counters go on the Rampaging Baloths. We gain the life. Fight Beast token versus the Vorinclex again. Tap Guy's Cradle for 6 mana and get it frozen, so we're pretty much doing nothing next turn, assuming that we can't go wide on the other green player. And this is during the attacking phase in case we need to make blocks in order to try and survive. Alright, so we go up to 111, lose the token to the Death Touch, but our opponent obviously loses the Vorinclex as well. That won't stop our lands from still being frozen though. And we don't have Indestructible on anything, so I'm just going to take the damage here, and if there's an instant speed overrun effect, then so be it. Could get an instant speed Crater Hoof down, that'd be funny. So a bunch of damage being done, we're still north of our starting life total. Toski going to draw a bunch of cards, and a bunch of treasure as well from Old Norbaum. What did we say? 70 odd treasure? Oh, and then the game crashes, that's so irritating. Ugh. Yeah, well I made the mistake with the ram through previously, I mean we should have had the game there. But yeah, that's a shame that we don't get to see if we would have been able to crawl out from under that one, because we were going to draw more cards with the Sylvan Library with probably just 1 mana held up. So would have had to make blocks again on the next one-eyed player's turn, and they would have been Death Touches. Doubtful that Yarok could have done anything because he was frozen as well, because Vorinclex does that for some reason. So yeah, anyway, the Fates have decided that we're not going to see the end of this one. I'll put a warning at the beginning of the video because I think it was a fun enough one anyway. And like I've said a few times, we should have had the game with ram through. I just missed that for whatever reason. So hopefully you all enjoyed it. If you want to see another one from Bristly Bill, then we'll try and get one in which the game doesn't crash next time. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video, whichever commander that is. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.